got a friend of mine who says that until he makes 10K, he's not going to go dating or he's not going to meet women. To which I thought, what a fucking idiot. What if he never actually makes 10K? Does that mean he'll then never date a girl? So what, he'll just be celibate for the next few years until he gets to the 10K mark. So it inspired me to make a video like this. Now I want you to stick around to the end of this video so that you can find out exactly what trait is required in order for you to find a beautiful girlfriend. So in today's society, because we've got this Instagram shit that we have to deal with, and we're constantly looking at people spending money and sitting on yachts and buying nice expensive brands in order to look good, you'll probably be under the illusion that you need to spend money in order to have a beautiful girlfriend. And in most cases, that is actually true. Because when I travel to the places I've been this summer, Ibiza, south of France, London, these are generally places where people have money and where men have a significant amount of money. And you'll see very often tall, beautiful, model type girls with short, fat, stumpy, rich men. And in that sense, you'll be like, yeah, you need to be rich to have a hot girlfriend, bro. Come on, it has to be. I've seen it everywhere. So to a degree, you are right. Because the beautiful women want rich men so they can have amazing experiences, so they can post Instagram pictures without the rich men, so they can lure other rich men. It's a crazy situation. But this friend of mine that says that he won't go dating until he makes 10K a month, I think is completely disillusioned. Because what you're ultimately saying is that you won't go dating until you make a certain amount of money. And then once you make that money, all of a sudden, you think you're going to become attractive just because you now make 10K a month? Do you think the girl knows how much money you actually make? No, she doesn't. You could literally be an absolute broke idiot and still date hot girls. There are tips and tricks that you can utilize to help you achieve this. Now, one of those things, despite being slightly deceitful, is by acting and looking rich. You don't have to buy expensive brands. Here behind me, you can see Louis Vuitton, Balenciaga, Gucci, all these beautiful shops here in Nice. You don't need to buy these brands in order to look good, or in order to be attractive, or in order to get a girlfriend. Now, you do need to look good to have a beautiful girlfriend. So that means working on yourself, but I don't want to talk about that because I talk about that in every single one of my videos. And my core pillar is health, masculinity, looking good, looking in shape, and dressing well. Of course you need those things in order to have a girlfriend. You want those things even if you don't want a girlfriend. And so what I found interesting with my life is that even as a broke young kid, I still had beautiful girlfriends. The only difference was when I made the money, it then brought me a level of freedom. And that freedom helped me to travel around the world and meet other beautiful women, which then increased my experience and my level of game and understanding. But I didn't necessarily need the money in order to have a girlfriend. My first girlfriend was when I was 18 years old. She was a beautiful Iranian girl in London. I've had 5 amazing girlfriends and loved 3 women in my life. And I had most of those women when I didn't have money. How crazy is that? So those women clearly didn't pick me because I had money. They must have picked me for other reasons. And I know what those reasons are. Confidence, having a certain type of vibe and energy, which now, come to think of it, is basically being masculine. Being a man and having your shit together and being ambitious, even at 18 years old, was very sexy to these girls. Even an 18-year-old girl going out with an 18-year-old guy wants you to be ambitious. He doesn't want you to be a waste of space. He wants to know that you might be a somebody one day. You're not a somebody at that particular point, but maybe one day you will be a somebody. And so she's with you on that basis of the potential of who you could potentially become. So those girls that dated me and went out with me and loved me when I didn't have the money, loved me because of who I am, not what I am. And who I was a confident, fun-loving guy who was always in good shape, who always worked out, who always wore nice clothes. And my dad was in the fashion industry, so he kind of taught me how to dress. And it was never necessarily wearing expensive brands like Gucci you see here behind me. It was always dressing good quality clothing, affordable, that fit you well. That's what it was about. I always dressed well as a child, and I didn't have the money to buy expensive things. I never came from a rich family. But I dressed well, I was confident, and I was always ambitious. I got good grades, I went to a good university, and I always tried to start businesses while I was at school and university. And women loved that. They were like, wow, you're trying to start a business, you're 18 years old? They found it fascinating that I was that ambitious at that age. They also found it fascinating that I was so confident, even though I didn't really have much to be confident about. I wasn't a rich kid. Like, how come I was so confident? How come I walked around with my balls swinging around? How come I was so masculine even at 18 years old? And that's what helped me attract lots of beautiful women. So those particular traits right there, masculinity, confidence, leadership, dressing well, that's what got me the girlfriends from a young age. I'll be honest with you and tell you that actually when I made the money and became a millionaire, my dating life became a lot more difficult because girls started judging me and started wanting to be with me for what I am, which was a wealthy, well-educated British guy. And that's a danger. When women know you've got money, they know that you can buy them a certain lifestyle. And that actually started working against me. My Instagram showed that I had a high level of social status, so these girls expect me to pay for everything. And although it does drive the attraction, and I have a lot of women that are interested in me across the planet, it's actually harder work now because they expect more from me. They expect me to fly them out somewhere. They expect me to invite them to my beautiful apartments, wherever I might be staying. They expect me to pay for all dinners. And so they think, oh, he's rich, he can just look after me. So then I realized that this woman might not be with me because of who I actually am. She might be with me because of what I am. And so I may attract a lot of gold diggers, which are the wrong type of women. But because I'm smart, because I'm emotionally intelligent, because I've been studying stuff for years, I'm not going to pick a gold digger who's going to destroy my life. That's for Jeff Bezos. And so the major tip that I want to leave you with, which is likely to get you a girlfriend, and this is what worked for me my whole entire life when I had no money, was a level of self-belief and confidence within myself. When I had that confidence, I could obtain anything. I could obtain a beautiful woman, I could obtain a business, I could obtain anything I put my hands to. Because I walked around like I owned the shit. Society is trying to trick you and make you think that you need to look rich and buy all these things in order to be cool and to have a girlfriend and to be loved by others. You need to wear Gucci, Balenciaga and Louis Vuitton so that you're cool and admired and you get a girlfriend. In fact, that's just complete bullshit. So if you're a guy who's just starting out, you don't have much money and you think you need to be rich and you think you need to make 10K a month like my friend to go dating, you'd be extremely wrong. What you need is confidence and a high level of self-belief in yourself. Believe you're on the right track and that you will be a success and you'll be major because you're talented and you're smart and you work hard. If you have those traits, that creates a vibe and a certain energy about you, which makes you infectious. Women love that. Once you have that, you are way more likely to find a girlfriend. You don't need 10K a month, bro. So get out there and start dating.